Vixia, and welcome back to another installment of the How to Draw Map series. Today, we will be learning how to draw countries, lakes, and cities. The reason I'm looping lakes into this is because you draw them very similar to the way you draw countries, because they're basically kind of like internal boundaries, which is like what a country is, basically the country's borders. So how you want to draw lakes is, let's say we want one at the end of this river. You want to basically continue the river, but maybe even with a thicker outline like the one you used at, oops, that's not going to work because it's going to border the actual sea. And so you want to draw the lines for these about as thick as the coastline boundaries, and they tend to have kind of stepped shapes. Some lakes are round, but more likely than not, especially ones that aren't in mountains, they tend to be kind of finger shaped with sort of offshoots in places. And then let's say we do want to draw a mountain lake, then it would probably just be a rough circle. This is one of the ones where if it's not a perfect circle, that's fine, because it's a lake. It's not gonna be a perfect circle. But anyway, that's it for lakes. It's just a quick little summary. And now let's go on to countries. Country borders are pretty interesting. You generally, it depends on what kind of map you're making. Because if you're making a modern to future map, you want to kind of use some straight lines as well as angled shapes. This is a little bit of an extreme example, but because if you look at places, especially places that have been colonized, you will see that more likely than not, they have straight lines as most of their borders. Like, if, say, look at Libya or Egypt or places like that. And the places that don't have natural boundaries, this kind of goes for desert things as well. They also tend to have straighter borders. But in general, the rule of thumb is, if it's modern, it has straight lines. If it's medieval or pre-modern, it usually follows the boundaries of natural places, like, say, this river. And you want to make the lines as thick as possible with with one stroke, or maybe even two of a pencil, but not like overly dramatic lines. Not like what I did for this river here, where you kind of do that. You want to just kind of press down hard on the paper so that it leaves a mark, and you can tell that that's obviously supposed to be a big boundary, but it's not overly dramatic and huge, and So, in absence of a natural boundary for medieval maps and stuff, you want to kind of just quote-unquote make up where the stream that it's going with would follow, or where a tributary would go, or stuff like that. But as you can see, in some places the natural features do not go all the way to the coast, so you want to just kind of quote-unquote make up where that would continue to, and where the borders would end up being. So let's define the other end of this country, and I think it should be a fairly large country, so let's make it this one, this river, and then let's say you want two lakes and stuff. Let's say they own that area of the lake. We wouldn't just draw a border straight through the lake, because in medieval times, also, that's not really how it worked, because you can't physically lay claim to and plant a flag on water unless you have some sort of floating. That's not really what's happening. What is happening over there? Sorry, my cat is scratching on something and it's kind of annoying. But anyway, back to what I was talking about, is there was no way to stake claim to water, really. I mean, people did it, but it wasn't really officially, in my opinion, it wasn't officially part of the country until big maps that showed lines through that happened. And even if you look at like maps of, say, countries with lakes in them, for example, the US or Canada, they tend to exempt the maps from the lakes from the actual map, and they tend to just put that's where the country ends, even if the lakes are considered part of the country. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm not actually filling in the lake with a line. Like, for example, say there's a country here and then a lake, and then I wouldn't just do that. You want to kind of go around it, which is what I did here. Now, oops, I poked a hole through the paper, which is not good, but it's unavoidable sometimes, especially if you're drawing over a table with a crack in the middle of it like I am. And it just kind of is there now. So, anyways, now to name the countries, you just, basically what I do is I run a bunch of syllables through my head, like, and see which ones sound at least decent for a country name. Like, for example, let's name this one there we go. That's an example. Now you can just kind of do this on paper, or you can do it in your head. As you can see, I kind of did it on paper. You want to try to generally, unless you're trying to be funny, or unless it's for some other genuine reason, you want to try to avoid actually using English English words if you speak English in the name of the countries. Unless you're, like I said, unless you're being funny like I did with ice and berg up here on this map. You want to, you can use other, language names, other names from languages, and that would work just fine. Because if you don't speak that language, foreign languages can sound interesting or, novel in some way. And it can lead to genuinely interesting names for some places. Like, for example, let's trace a country here. Let's say there's a fork of the river here, and I'll go back over it because I didn't quite make it thick enough. And then actually we'll say it owns this island, which we can signify by writing the name of the country across that area. So what's an interesting sounding name from another country, and an interesting sounding name from another language, and that will take a while for me to think of, so I will just jump cut to that when I think of one. Hey everyone, I'm back, and I've decided on a name for this country that's going to be inspired by a foreign language's name, or foreign noun or verb from a foreign language. Nouns and verbs tend to yield better results, better countryfiable results than adjectives like purple or fuzzy. I don't know. But anyway, the one I picked was Lahemaa from Estonian, and if you watch this channel, you know I love Estonia. It's my favorite country for not really any reason. But anyway, that's beside the point. And you don't want to just take the name by itself. You want to kind of, like I said, countryify it. So since they named this one Rakasia or something like that, I'll probably end this one, since it's close to, I'll end it with SIA or ESIA, and that's a good ending for especially Latinized ones, like names that aren't in the country's official language, but they're kind of turned into English, if you want that kind of feel. So we'll probably change this to, oops, I forgot to write it across the island. So, kind of went flying there. Hey, magia. There you go, and that works. That's La Magia. Now, I'll go through and label the rest of the countries and stuff with random names, but you don't need to see that, so I'll put it into a time lapse. There we are. I have completed the list of all the countries here, and now for the capitals. The capitals are very much an interesting part. If I could actually talk, that'd be great. But they're very much an interesting part of the design process, because you need to choose where they go, and there are a few locations that might be good. First, and these aren't all real, because there are a lot more countries that have landlocked capitals than don't. Like, think if you look at just Europe as an example, there's Berlin in Germany, Paris in France, Bern in Switzerland, Rome in Italy. If you look at many countries, except for a few like Estonia or Latvia, they're all landlocked, except for a few, like I said. Or Portugal, you know. So, with that being said, the most interesting places to put capitals are mostly on the coasts or on interesting geographical features, and this is definitely the case for most fantasy maps as well. Because if you look at it, the only reason Berlin is landlocked is because it was. Long story short, Brandenburg helped form Germany, and their capital was Berlin because they were a landlocked state of the Holy Roman Empire. I don't know if history's not your thing. Maps are very much oriented in history, so this is a strange video for you to be watching. I'm not complaining, but also, I'm sorry that I'm boring you with it. It's just necessary to this point of the thing. So there are reasons why capitals are landlocked, and since this is the medieval map, I feel like many of them that are on the coast, which I believe is most of them, would happen to have a capital on the coast. And I just realized I forgot to label a country. So we're going to do that right now. You're going to see the brainstorming process live again. I'm going to start with a T because I don't really do that much. And as you can see, a lot of these ones around here, Mirci, Matasi, Turai, which I just made, and Reki, all have the II thing. And it's good to have places that have similar endings to names, because if you look at Central Asia, they pretty much all end in Stan or Stan, because they all have Turkic languages or Turkish languages. Turkic, I believe, is the correct term. But and Stan means the land of. So if you look at it, it's like Kyrgyzstan, land of the Kyrgyz, and Kazakhstan, land of the Kazakhs, Uzbekistan, so on and so forth. Anyway, so it could mean something like that. It could just mean, other random things that a lot of them just chose to use. And you can see that again with SIA, RIA, SIA, SIA, or RIA. And I used an interesting a bunch of interesting tactics, because you can see there are a few breakaway states. East Austria is pretty evidently a breakaway state of Austria, because you can tell it's a thin state which doesn't hold too much land compared to the main one. So it's obviously not just two ones that are founded at the same time. One was east and one was west, because also this one doesn't say West Austria, and I just realized this should say West Austria, but I'm just stupid and I don't know directions. And you can see that again with Tokru and North Tokru. The N and E, or N and W period mean, or W period means west, E and period means east, N and period means north, and S and period means south. Obviously, they are breakaway states, this one and that one, because they have relatively thin, small land, and they're named a direction and then the name of the original country. Think, West Virginia or South Carolina in the U.S. Those are just two examples I can think of off the top of my head. But yeah, now capitals. Let's start off with Rakasia again. Oh, one more thing actually. You can tell Malakan, I believe that's what it's called. Maybe, yeah, I think it's Malakan. But it spans this little strait thing here, and that has historical context, because if you look at especially medieval, like Spain and Portugal and stuff, they owned northern Morocco, which is just across the Straits of Gibraltar from where they are. And if you look at Denmark and Scania in Sweden, it owns the land across the strait, and so on and so forth, and up until, well, Japan owns Hokkaido, and up until the end of World War II, they owned South Sakhalin, so on, so forth. That's beside the point. Anyway, capitals. I feel like a good place for Rakesia's capital to be would be right there, because it's on a little jut in the lake, making it a pretty decent defense point. And let's name it let's say ESIA or IA or whatever, means like the land or the country of, or something like that. So the capital cities, just to save me time, are gonna be named the country minus SIA or IA or whatever. So this is gonna be RAKKE. So Rake or something. And then another interesting place for it to be founded with one with La Hemesia, which is a mouthful. Put one there, and then it could be named La Hema, because that's roughly minus, it has an extra A, or no, it's lacking the extra A. That would make it Bay in Estonian. So let's just say it means bay in this whatever Lahemasian or whatever, and it's the island in the bay. So now I'm gonna do a second time lapse of me writing in all of the capitals and stuff. Yeah, let's go. I'll see you when I get back. I'm back again, and this is so far what we have. Now, I think this is the end of this video, and next time we'll be doing the final segment 4, I think, yeah, 4, and we will be looking at possible trade routes and putting the flags of the top 5 most populated countries, in my opinion, on this continent. I'll see y'all then. Goodbye.